Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa, brr, pa. Attention.
Hey folks, Lachlan here again, speaking to you as always from just outside of Durban, South Africa. If you're new here and you've never seen one of my videos before, I have a severe and permanent physical disability known as quadriplegic cerebral palsy, which confines me to a wheelchair and affects the way I move and speak. If this is too difficult for you to deal with, move along. This is not the video for you. Now, for the adults in the room, what I'm going to talk about today is the complexity of life in South Africa and why it is so difficult to have an honest discussion about it. Life in South Africa is extremely complicated. The social dynamics are made up of a number of different factors, all informed by our past, our racial and cultural history, and the economic factors that we live in. Unfortunately, the situation in South Africa is far too often boiled down to a simple scenario of black versus white, and that does not encompass the full truth of what happens in this country. It's mostly politicians who encourage people to see South Africa through the lens of black versus white, because that is what keeps them in power, keeps them relevant, and keeps them wealthy. But the fact is, the idea that South Africa should be conceived as a nation of black against white is nonsense, and it is unhelpful to the vast majority of our people. When I criticize social developments or political choices made by those in power in South Africa, because I'm white, I'm often accused of blaming the black majority for the bad things that happen here. But that is not what I'm doing. For example, when I speak about the danger represented by Julius Malema of the EFF, as well as other black radicals, and how they are very comfortable using violent rhetoric to energize their supporters, I am regularly accused of using swat kafar tactics. For any international viewers, the phrase swat kafar translates from Afrikaans as black danger, and it is a phrase that was popularized under the National Party government during apartheid. But I want to make something very clear. When I call someone like Julius Malema dangerous because he sings "Kill the farmer, kill the Boer," I don't just mean that he's dangerous to white people. For a politician like Julius Malema, white people are the primary target in his so-called revolution, because we are the easiest racial group to blame all the bad things on. But make no mistake, if the revolution comes, and if Julius Malema were to rise to power and to start seizing land, and let's say there were mass violence or widespread murder of whites, even in the case where they eliminate all of us, you have to realize it's not going to stop there. They will come for the next group after that they find to have fallen out of favor with their ideology. Because revolutions never stop at exterminating one group. there is always another enemy to fight. The other aspect of this is that people who don't think that Julius Malema is dangerous, they seem to believe in a kind of childlike way that even if the revolution happens, that afterwards South Africa will still operate much in the same way as it does now. That is not the case. If a revolution of the kind which Julius Malema and others are calling for does in fact happen, it will fundamentally change the way that South Africa operates as a nation. You won't simply be able to go shopping at the mall or to travel around the country as you can do now. Do you think that with South Africa being part of the global community as it is, and as are most countries in our world, do you really believe that if a revolution of the kind Julius Malema is calling for takes place, that nothing will change and that other countries won't notice? Yes, I know politicians these days are very fond of saying that South Africa doesn't need other countries to survive. That is another lie. And what worries me is that their followers, the hardcore followers of these radicals in the EFF, the ANC, and the MK, simply don't understand the forces being played with because they believe so strongly and so deeply in the character of their leaders, or the character that their leaders portray, I should say, that they imbue them with almost supernatural powers. But the thing is, as with all revolutions of this kind, all that ever happens is that those on the top benefit and reap the rewards of the revolution, and nothing really changes for the average citizen, except for the fact that quality of life will get worse. And so I'm not making this kind of content, and I don't speak about South Africa solely for my concern as a white person, because a revolution of the kind that Julius Malema is calling for would completely destabilize the country as a whole. And those who would suffer most, assuming all the white people are either dead or gone, will be the poor black people who have no option but to stay and live in the ruins of what is left. I do not want to see that happen. Believe it or not, because I know many people don't believe it. They think that just because I'm white, I feel entitled to wealth and success, which I don't. But whether you believe it or not, I simply want South Africans of all colors to be able to have the opportunity to live the best lives that they can. And leaders like Julius Malema, Jacob Zuma, and Cyril Ramaphosa are not the way to that. Nor, for that matter, is John Steenhuisen of the DA. As I've said many times before, I believe that the political class in South Africa is almost entirely separate from the lives of the rest of us, and they don't live in the same world we do. But make no mistake, if a revolution comes, it will be the poorest of the poor who suffer for it. And that is even assuming that you kill everyone that looks like me. That's not going to solve your problems, and it's certainly not going to make everyone rich. Quite the opposite, in fact. As always, I hope you find some value in this content. Look after yourselves, take care of each other, and for now, Farewell.